Welcome to the Mama Papa Podcast. If you'd like to be a sponsor for our podcast, shoot us an email at mamapapapodcast@gmail.com. Now welcome to the show.
Because it's a line. You can't hear my mic, I can hear yours. Yeah. Okay, so welcome back to Mama Papa Podcast. Sorry we had this weird intermission, but we were all very lazy and didn't want to do anything.
Intermission. Are we in the intermission now?
No,
When did we
just
start?
the past weeks.
Oh,
is our
we took a
intermission.
break.
Yeah, we took a break because everyone was tired. Which Mom is tired now because it's 9:48.
Yeah.
Past my bedtime.
It's past Mom's bedtime, but it's
But-
not past mine.
But we're back because the demand was so high.
Yeah, the demand was crazy.
Yes.
Crazy high.
Everyone wanted to hear more.
I was getting all kinds of emails and texts to come back to the show.
So the video's gonna be off because it's just too tiring and hard to do. But I'll still put it on YouTube and Spotify. So if you're watching it on Spotify, you can now follow us on... if you were watching us on YouTube, you can now find us on Spotify. And vice versa if you want. But I think Spotify is probably easier.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we're on Spotify.
We're stars.
We're stars.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that. But...
The whole
Yeah,
two people that follow us think we're stars.
It's really
We
hard
have,
being a star.
we have like 7 people following.
Ooh,
Yes.
7.
The paparazzi
I
is
forgot.
getting... I can understand how Brad Pitt feels now.
I don't think Brad Pitt has many paparazzis.
Oh.
I think it's more like Miley Cyrus, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Kanye. Those types of people have a lot of... I'm sure they have paparazzi, but I think news is more centered on those people in the music, the young music people.
I think I thought Mom took a picture of me the other day. So
I think that was me. If you want to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, we're on those sites. And we don't post very often because I have 2 parents in their mid-50s who don't understand how to use social media.
Or really care.
Or care. Or that.
Or that.
But, yeah, so I don't know what we're doing today.
What are we doing?
We could play, we could talk about stuff, or we could play a game, or we could...
Let's talk about what everybody's talking about.
Oh, gosh.
Why not talk more about COVID-19 and the riots?
the riots,
Now you're
police
making-
brutality.
Police
It's
brutality.
pretty sad. It's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
If there's any cops listening out there, I don't trust you.
No, I trust you.
I think the thing, everybody brings up these examples when it comes to the cop brutality is like, yeah, but I know so many good cops, or it's just one bad apple. And it's like, that's not what the riots are about. The riots are about a systemic injustice and social injustices that keep occurring again and again and again and again.
Well, I think it's also in the system of there's these different policies that each state uses to kind of not control, but make sure the police are being police when they're protecting the citizens. But a lot of those policies, so there's 8 policies in place, but a lot of the states only use half of them, and there's one that uses all of them and one that uses none of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
like the actual policies that could help to
Prevent police
brutality.
Yeah. It's I think a lot of protesters don't understand what to do, but I think they will soon because someone's going to come out with more information about those policies. And they say that that's the only thing that really stops the abuse in citizens from police officers. is their behavior?
There's a lot of issues. And like Mom said, it's systemic. And there's multiple facets to the problem of policing. The big problem is that police are the ones policing themselves. And so nobody can
That's
really,
so loud.
And it's super loud.
yeah,
Sorry, everyone.
that's just our AC.
I'll turn it on.
Okay. But yeah, so there have been articles about how police basically, when they write the reports, are not complete and outright lie, and you know, when it comes to finding out what truly happened, they believe the police reports over, you know, somebody who's being arrested, or their report. So the police can hide behind their lies, and there's no good mechanism to seek out the truth until we've had the video cameras, which
Yeah.
basically are showing that, you know, there's a lot of things going on that the police aren't honest about, and there's no policing the police. So although there's policies in place, they don't follow them, and that the police tend to protect themselves, and so
Well, I think another thing is, yeah, the police are in this egotistical kind of dome where you're protected no matter what you do, but you do wonder how those videos get out and how they're leaked. Someone had to have either the decency to be like, this is wrong, and they posted it, or someone dug a little deeper and found it. Like, they couldn't hide all of it, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have these riots. So I think, like, someone separate from the police department, someone with the state who's not getting bribed or anything, should be in control of those videos.
that's the thing about the book 1984. It was all about a police state where everybody's watching the citizens, but it's actually opposite, because we need Big Brother to watch the police.
Yeah. Well, there's apparently, we're staffing the United States police officer or police departments as if there's 70% crime happening in the world, but there's only 10% happening in our country, rather, which is ridiculous. So we have officers that are way over, like, there's so many police officers with little violence, so they don't even need to use violence most of the time to solve anything. Levi, what are you doing? He's trying to dig in the carpet.
The problem is
Wants
that
to dig a spot.
you need police officers available 24/7, and to cover that, you have to have so many police officers. Even though there's not a lot of crime that goes
Yeah.
on, you still need people available.
Well, that's the point, is they shouldn't be using violence, ever. And they are. And some states allow certain violences.
Did
to
you
their
guys know
citizens.
that the cop knew, what's his name?
I don't know.
The author, or
The guy he killed,
the guy killed?
he knew him. How?
He knew him. They worked in a bar together
What?
as a security guard, and
Well, that's
Floyd
weird.
did something else.
So he was paying him back for something. It was a personal vendetta.
So, and I guess the story is that they did not get along.
There you go.
when they
so
worked
that's
together.
murder.
Well,
So that's murder.
yeah, it's
But then those other cops, it is an accessory to a crime.
Totally.
If they knew that this cop knew him, didn't like him, had a vendetta.
Well, Minneapolis already has those policies. You can't use chokeholds, and when you see someone doing a misdemeanor, you have to intervene. All of those cops should have been charged for something, and at least murder of this person. But they weren't charged anything until protesters started,
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you actually read the police report that guy wrote,
Oh, I bet it's...
it didn't say anything about him
Yeah.
stepping on his neck. So, prime example policeman falsifying his report and
Oh.
the video totally showing the opposite, or showing something that he didn't put down in his report. So
Well, that's another thing is there's also a thing that says you're supposed to record any type of violence that you or someone else does to the police officers, or you'll be, punished. And they broke that too.
totally.
And I'm sure many, many cops do.
Yeah.
Even the ones that are just doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
So the lesson is everybody needs their own police cam on themselves.
Everyone needs their phone. I think it's just been very, very easy to see because we have video.
Right.
And I'm sure this has been going on way more than behind the scenes of what we've seen.
In years past, the unfortunate thing is it was probably even more brutal than what we witnessed, because there were lynchings and it went unprosecuted.
Mobs and
Yeah.
mobs would just chase down a suspect, usually a black person,
Yeah.
and lynch him without trial. And it was just all on gut
Hearsay.
instinct that this guy is the guilty guy. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all
Ridiculous.
our behavior comes back to like the Salem witch trials kind of thing. If we have a gut feeling and we feel fear in our heart, we're going to try and eliminate that any way we can, which is scary.
It is scary.
It's unfair and
Right.
it's not
I know, we
sensible.
can't always go by our instinct or human nature, because it can betray us.
Yeah.
Just like that girl who was raped in the what was it? What's the name of that the documentary? It's like a podcast too, but she was raped. She goes to the police and they're like, "You're falsifying this. This is a false report or whatever." And then the stepmom, or no, it was a foster mom. She actually kind of like started the whole debacle because she called the police and said, "I just have a feeling that this girl is lying. I just think she's lying about this. She wasn't really raped. It's all a lie." But she was raped,
Yeah.
but they didn't believe her. And then they charged her with a falsifying report or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just really hard to, I think it's hard for police officers to be given such different answers and have to be the one to be like, I don't know who's right, but
that's totally true, because that one incident at the Central Park when the white girl was calling in that a black man was threatening her,
oh yeah.
then the police came, and who knows what would have happened, but the guy videotaped her. So that's totally opposite of her
Right.
falsifying a report.
Yeah.
Right.
And because of video, exonerated the black man who was just sitting on the park bench.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's hard to know what the truth is, because there are liars out there. The police are liars. Sometimes the people are liars. The citizens are liars. So
And like if you're a detective or something and you get falsified information, you don't know it's false. You get the information you have, and suddenly, because they're lying, you're leaning towards another way than the truth is.
Right.
It's just
and the tactics that police officers use to try to get to the truth actually get people to lie. It's
Yeah.
kinda like
Right.
that,
Right. Yeah. And they
Yeah.
totally make something up.
the
Yeah, they have
Salem
them
witch
sign a
trials.
confession after hours of interrogation, and
Ugh.
it's not
Right.
the truth.
And it happens everywhere. Like, it honestly happens to whatever color you are. There's always falsified
Documents.
Information or falsified.
What's the word when you like admit something? Falsified.
Surrender.
Confession?
Confessions. When you confess to a crime.
Kinda. It's more like statements.
Deposition.
I don't know, but like in I Greenland. In Greenland, there was this case where 2 people were put in jail and questioned for like over a month without given food or water or anything. It was completely abusive. This was a while, like probably, I don't know, 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
But after they have been in this loop and like locked in a completely pitch black cage for a while, they just say random stuff just to get out of there.
Right.
And they end up roping other people into this same type of tactic that doesn't work. It just creates lies upon lies because they just want the stuff to end. And it's relevant even now. Like, there was a case in, I don't remember where, but there was this case that's actually a TV show called Believe or something, or Unbelievable. It's Unbelievable. And this girl was raped, but because
that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah.
Same one.
Because the police were questioning her and leading the conversation to her being guilty, she got pressured and just wanted out of the situation because she was being like questioned by everyone she knew. It's just the way that police go about things isn't logical in the citizen type of way. Like, if anything, they should be like therapists that go in and ask these people questions because they know how to get the truth.
Well, it's interesting because like one of the things that I was listening to on the radio today said that, do we really need police officers to be doing, like mental health checks, dealing with homeless people? Like, should we actually have other organizations that deal with all those kind of things? So if you have somebody who's really agitated with a mental health disorder and the police are called out because there's nobody else to call, should it actually be an on-call mental health worker who's going out to deal with this person?
It's got to be both.
Or both.
Because
Right.
the guy could be, if he's wigged out or not on meds, he could be dangerous.
True.
And if they're calling the police, obviously it's a situation where there's potential harm that needs to be done. So you need a policeman, but they're not trained to be psychologists or psychiatrists, and so you need policemen to make sure that nobody gets hurt or killed, but you also need a psych person to come in there and assess the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're definitely like called in after everything's happened. If anything. Maybe they're not even called at all, but
That's like this, in Longmont, they have a program, and it was social worker, like a whole bunch of different people, like nurse, social worker, police, I can't remember, paramedics, somebody, like, but it was all for hoarders. So they would get these people that they get so many complaints about their house because they're hoarders. And then the police would have this task force who would come in of social worker and therapists and different people to help the police navigate this situation, or else they'd have to evict these people and they'd be homeless because the house is like unlivable.
yeah. I think that
But it was like they developed this whole program of multi-professionals like coming in to.
It's almost like you need telehealth almost, because you can't have a psychiatrist going to the field all the time
In the middle of the night.
Yeah, so it's almost the time to get RoboCop.
I don't think so.
You need RoboCop because then, the police are also afraid of getting shot or killed or hurt. So that's why they always pull their gun out, because they don't want to get killed, because it's a job that they can get killed anytime they go out there. So that's their rationale for pulling out their guns,
Right.
even though the situation may not call for it. But if that's your job every day, it's, your goal that day is to make sure you can make it home. So from a policeman perspective, you know, all it takes is one crazy dude to shoot you. So that's where the police are coming from. So it's almost it's time for RoboCop, because they can shoot the RoboCop and he won't die.
But you know, that's like, but if you're like a medic in the field, you know, there to save soldiers' lives.
Yeah.
Your life is on the line the whole time.
Yeah.
But, you know, anybody who's like a medic or a healthcare provider or something, you're going to put the other person's life ahead of yours. So you're not going to be like, well, you know, my job is to keep my life, you know, stay alive and go home tonight. It's like, well, I guess, but really your job is to protect the citizens, and unfortunately you might die doing it.
Well, they take an oath, I think.
Yeah, like
They have an oath that I will not die.
No, they say I will be aimed to protect the citizens.
Right.
Whenever it calls. I think it's like that. I don't want to quote something that's false, but I know it's for the citizens. But
so your goal shouldn't be to like make it home alive.
Yeah.
I think these
Like
people,
that one interview, and that woman, she's like, well, you know, I got to protect myself. And it's like, well, of course, you know.
The woman cop.
The woman cop. It's
who
like,
shot that person.
She shot a person, killed him, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
That's not,
No,
your
yeah.
goal should not be you know, every day you're going to make it home alive. And because then it's like, it screws with your brain, you know, like she's like, my job is, it's you against me. It's all those criminals out there against me, and I got to make it out alive. It's like,
then you're in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
Because, sorry to break it to you, you can't always survive. There's someone else going to be stronger. And if you keep beefing up, they're going to beef up even more. So I don't think, you can't fight fire with fire. Or it's just going to grow.
Well, some people say too, what do you think about this? Because some people say that part of the problem is that, you know, I don't remember when it started, but over the last several decades, they started militarizing police forces. Like all these tanks and military stuff that the government would sell to police forces to deal with crime in cities. And they're like, no, these police forces shouldn't have access to stuff like that.
Yeah, I think what needs to happen is that policemen need to have two guns. One would be some sort of stun gun where they can use it more liberally and ask questions later, instead of just having a deadly weapon at all times and making the decision, all right, either he's going to die or I'm going to die. And so if they have non-lethal weapons and have it be as effective in stopping somebody, that would go help a lot in protecting police, but also diffusing the situation. Of course, that can be abused, and of course, those weapons sometimes can kill somebody, but it's something that those weapons need to be perfected, and training should involve the use of those weapons more.
Well, I think like a lot of Europe doesn't even have guns anymore, really, in their life, in their civilian life. There's still crimes happening. Like in England, the knife fight rates have gone way up, and there's still crime, and there's still people dying, and I'm sure there's still police brutality, but I don't think it's guns necessarily. I think it's like a psychological response that we have when you're in a pressured situation. If you see somebody in a rush grab for their hip, you're gonna immediately say, he must have something, I have to shoot. And it's not something you can look outside of yourself in that moment. You can't think about it any more than just, I'm in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think guns have a whole load to do with it. I know that mass shootings have a whole lot to do with
Guns.
people having guns.
Yeah, so in England, we have people who are from over there. They said that it's really rare that criminals have guns, because if you get caught with a gun, then it's punishable, even if you don't use it or something, because they're not allowed to have weapons. They're not allowed to have guns. And so if you have to be truly a criminal to actually have a gun or use it in a crime. And so he said that the shootings are, pretty rare, but you're right. So people are using knives and everything else.
And you can still beat someone.
But the problem with America is there's just too many guns out there to get us to the point where nobody owns a gun.
And I also
There's just
think
too many guns.
Owning a gun gives you some sort of like, I'm protected, I can do whatever I want kind of vibe. Not always, especially if you like keep it away from you, but people who, always carry it all the time, and especially our police force, most of them are innocent, or, I don't know the system, but I think there is a very big ego type thing going on in our system where people just feel empowered to do what they want when they want because they have this object that can kill.
That'd be a good study. Does it impact like what you think? Does it change your views on what's right and wrong and what you can and can't do if you have a lethal weapon on your body?
Well, I think it comes down to,
I don't know.
well, it's hard because...
Like if you're carrying a gun every day, does that change like how you view the world and life?
I think...
And what?
I think it's more has to do with fear. Is that if other people are fearing you, then you have more power, and it's easier to control people with fear.
Mm-hmm.
And become,
Hard to say. The people who have a license to carry a gun, concealed weapon, they go through some training. I'm not really sure how complete it is. I know that the friends that I know who've done that are pretty aware of the rules of gun ownership and the legality of shooting people, but my friends are a different group of people than maybe other people who may go through the training but may have a whole different viewpoint or attitude about carrying a gun.
I guess I'm thinking about more police.
Police? Oh,
like
yeah,
being in a position of power.
Oh,
like
totally.
you
So
are in a position of power. You have lethal weapons on your body. You know that you can basically bully somebody around if you want. I don't know. Does that make a difference? And of course, police are going to have guns. Like, what are you going to do?
I think there's a certain type of person that wants to be a policeman. Maybe. A lot of it is machoism, a big ego, so there's a certain type that want to be policemen, and it's certainly power.
We know policemen that aren't that type too, though.
I don't know that though. That might be nice in a party. Power corrupts, absolutely. So, yeah. So the more power you have, certainly, and people who are cops who have a certain personality and now they have power, they can abuse it.
I think it depends on the person, because I think a person who sees an object just as an object and that they're not in the environment where they're, using it very often, they're just pulling people over to get a paycheck, but they know what their job is their purpose to protect civilians, even if they're not, directly protecting, you don't see a big load of results from it. I think there's not a huge amount of ego as someone else who's in a dangerous part of the city dealing with this all the time, that they have people around them that are, boasting them on of like, that was wow, you did that, wow.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a totally different environment, and I'm sure power corrupts people, but if you don't really recognize, or no one really sees that you having that much power in the situation, like, you don't get a say. I mean, you can't pull someone over in a local town that doesn't have much to any crime and end up like shooting
chokeholding them.
Chokeholding them or shooting them without anyone knowing, because it will get
like
out
if they
there.
did that in Louisville, it would be like, what?
They would be prosecuted. And
but if you do it in inner city where they're like, this is a bad neighborhood, just a bunch of bad people living here anyway, so some kid who's on drugs or whatever they want to think.
Well, I think that's more like,
they think they can get away with it.
You don't know the side of the person. You don't know the side of the cop. You're generalizing, which is a very bad thing because it just promotes more stereotypes, in my opinion. But if that person who in the local town who got shot or hurt, their friends and family would be like, they were a good person. That police officer's a bad person for shooting them, and that person would get prosecuted by pressure of the community. While in inner city, they don't know those details, and I'm sure they'll say, oh, that kid was a good person, but why is anyone else in that community that has money, power, gonna believe that?
Mm-hmm.
They're not friends with them. They don't talk to them very often, other than, encounters. So there's less defense and against those people, even if they do have reputation. Like, it's just complicated, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think what you're saying is that if you're a bad cop in a small community, you're going to get outed out, and you really are an outlier, and you probably will get fired from your job. But and to me, if you're a cop and you're in a small town, I would imagine that's where you want to be, and that's kind of the action you're looking for. But if you're a cop who's an adrenaline junkie, you're going to be in the inner city, because that's where you want to be, because you like the action. But yeah, and then you can get away with all the with police brutality and all the things that in a small town you would be prosecuted or outed or fired for. But you can hide in a big urban city, being a bad cop, much more easily.
Yeah, I think regularity of those kind of situations cause kind of like a norm, so it just gets swept under the rug because it's just daily life. That kind of situation happens all the time.
It's the culture.
It gets ignored.
Yeah, it's a culture of the police department, of other cops, the bosses of those cops, the chiefs, police officer, this superintendent of police or whatever. And what I heard as well is that the police unions are just as corrupt, as just as guilty in overprotecting bad officers, because they're against any kind of police reform, because their role is to be a police advocate, and they've interfered or have gone against any sort of reform that would make policemen more accountable for their actions. And so what I've read is that the fraternal order of police and the police unions are just as culpable for the way that their policemen are acting, because they fervently defend them, in their actions,
No matter
no
what.
matter if they were guilty or not, because that's their role, is to protect,
Yeah.
The jobs of police officers. So to me, that's part of the problem as well, and it's cultural, and they really don't focus on doing the right thing, because their focus is to make sure that the police officers are not put in jail. They get paid. They get severance pay. They get whatever is best for the police officers. That's what they're gonna try to do.
Well, the funny thing is, like, LA's police force is known in the past as the most corrupt place probably ever, police force ever. Just because they've, in so many accounts with so much evidence, just changed it. Just said, no, we're not guilty. And
They just blatantly lie.
Yeah, they blatantly lie, and no one can stop them because the citizens don't have a say in that situations. The government doesn't have a say because they don't have enough information, because it's all corrupted. It's all changed. It's all either it all disappears or it all flip-flops and it says that something completely different. So in a way, it's hard to change something that's already so deeply embedded in corruption.
Right. Yeah, that's the hard part with these very established
like some
police
of it,
departments like New York City or LA, or it's like, and a lot of times you have generations of the same families in these police departments.
Yeah.
And it's like the culture is very ingrained in them.
They teach them the ropes.
So if it's corrupt and they're teaching them corruption over and over and over again,
well,
it's hard to change that. It's a systemic problem.
I think a lot of, to change that, or a step to change that, is they don't have an open mind of what other people are going through, because what you're experiencing affects, your thought patterns and your thought of the world, while another person's has different experiences that change their thought patterns and their thoughts of the world, and they might be completely opposite, but in their world, they're both right.
Mm-hmm.
They're both right, even though they're completely opposite. And if you just switch them and say, if they just sat down and had a conversation without objecting and being like, that's wrong, this is what I think, they just listened, they would have a whole different view on life and the view of the world. But people are too stubborn in their opinions to ever sit down and really be like, oh, I understand. But they're too stubborn, and they'll react as, that doesn't make sense to me because I've had these experiences, and that doesn't make sense. And honestly, they could be two different people in the same situation on opposite sides, and it's just one situation. It happens. It's natural. They just can't see the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think this is such a hard thing to change, unless you take a cop who's in a long chain of other cops and say, hi, you're gonna go live in the ghetto now without a gun or any protection as a white person.
Maybe every police officer should have to do that.
They don't have that kind of money to enforce every person to just, hey, how about we just switch lives?
Yeah.
It's like, why?
Let's just trading places. Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
you really...
That's what you have to do. Well, that also talks to the whole systemic problem, because that's not just police. That's the whole kind of racism that still is the undertone of our country.
Oh, yeah.
Is we still live in our own little bubble, and we don't understand what other people are really going through. Be it if they're, whatever the difference is, race or ethnicity or socioeconomic differences, whatever. Doesn't matter where you grew up. Like, we have a tendency to just live in our bubble and have our opinion and base all our opinions off of our own life experiences.
It's also, if you think you know what it's like or you think you understand to an extent, you really don't. You haven't lived in those shoes at that time, in that moment. You can't relate. And that's, I think, like both sides. You can't relate with having your dad tell you you have to become a cop or you have to become a doctor or you have to become a lawyer. Is that you're fed all this information of to be successful or to live up to someone's standards, you have to become this sort of thing. And you end up, without even really wanting to, you inherit what your parents give you, regardless of if you want it.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
It's true, though.
But you only got half of mine.
Well,
traits, so.
It's just weird being like around you and your parents, is that I see so many similarities of like your mom and your dad, and it's like you inevitably become your parent no matter how hard you try.
It's true.
And I think a good way of like changing that is like opening up to different lifestyles and kind of admitting those past things. Like a lot of people push them away of like, I never want to be like my parents, but to kind of get past that, you have to say, I am like my parents, and that's okay. I know how to deal with it, and I know where to stop myself from being annoying about it.
Are you saying that we're annoying?
No, not at all.
We should have just done what we thought we were going to do. It would have helped her. We could have just, when she was like 12 or 13, we could have sold her off to another family and then had a different experience.
Yes.
Yes, so she wouldn't be burdened by
us.
becoming one of us.
That's true.
Yeah. Sorry, Elena. We didn't sell you to another family. We should have.
To the Gallegleys or like Jonna.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
We tried, but there was no takers.
Jonna would have taken me. She probably would have taken me in a heartbeat.
Dang, we should have sold her.
I know.
How much do you think we would have got for her?
$2.
That'd have been a good deal.
2 cents. That's all I have.
Sorry.
I think I would have paid them.
Oh my gosh. You want me to hit him?
No, you're too far.
Strategically more than 6 feet away.
I'd call that 4.
Well, so she can't hit me, and also I can't get her diseases.
We sleep together.
Don't blame me. That's true. Ew.
Ew. Parents.
In the same bed.
Yeah.
That's all.
But
We're 6 feet away in our bed too. We have a king.
We're digressing.
yeah, I think Dad's digressing.
I think so. I think we've hit the point of now it's just going to be mumbling.
Talking about going to bed. That's why I think we need to.
I could wrap this up now.
Let's wrap it up.
And wrap it up in a comforter.
We're wrapping this up at 45 minutes because my parents are exhausted. But yeah, any last words?
Last words? Is this my last words?
Yeah.
I'll be like,
that's your last word?
I'll be like, Grandpa. Oh
my gosh. No. Okay.
We had a hard visit with Grandma and Grandpa today.
Oh, Dad went?
Dad went.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I think it makes Grandma anxious, actually.
Having
so
Dad
weird.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
It's kind of weird. All she wants is to see him, and then when he's there, she's kind of like angsty.
Angsty?
It was weird.
Anxious. Yeah. I don't think angsty is the right word.
I don't know. Like, she's kind of angry and anxious all at the same time.
Oh, maybe that is anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Angsty.
It was weird. But anyway, we're digressing.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Next time we'll talk about something else.
Yes.
Yeah.